Two people, same income, same city, same starting point. One dies broke, one retires a millionaire. The difference wasn't math. It was psychology. Why smart people do dumb things with money. Think about the smartest person you know. Maybe it's a doctor, a lawyer, someone with a PhD hanging on their wall. Now ask yourself, are they rich? Maybe, maybe not. Because here's the thing nobody tells you in school. Being smart and being good with money are two completely different skills. We treat finance like it's a math problem, like if you just learn the right formula, the right compound interest equation, the right investment strategy, everything will work out. But money doesn't work that way, because money isn't managed in a spreadsheet, it's managed in your head. In the moments when you're scared, when markets crash, when your neighbors buy a new car, when you get a raise and suddenly your lifestyle costs more than it did before. Money is emotional. Money is behavioral. Money is psychological. And that's why most personal finance advice fails. It tells you what to do, but it doesn't tell you why you can't do it. In 2020, a book came out that changed the way millions of people think about wealth. It wasn't full of stock tips. It didn't promise a formula for getting rich. Instead, it did something far more powerful. It looked at money the way it actually works, through the lens of human behavior. The book is called The Psychology of Money by Warren Buffett. And in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the ideas that might just change how you think about wealth, spending, and the future forever. The Man Who Watched the Crash. Warren Housel was not born into wealth. He grew up in a household where money was real, where bills mattered, where choices had consequences. As a young man, he watched two of his close friends die in a skiing accident, a freak avalanche, an ordinary day that turned into tragedy in seconds. That moment changed something in him. He realized life is unpredictable, risk is everywhere, and most of us act like it isn't. He went on to become a financial writer, a columnist, a partner at a venture capital fund. Over the years, he noticed something strange. The smartest analysts on Wall Street, people with Harvard degrees and 20 years of experience, they made terrible decisions during the 2008 financial crisis. They panicked. They sold at the wrong time. They let fear override logic. Meanwhile, ordinary people, teachers, janitors, postal workers, quietly accumulated millions simply by staying consistent, by not checking their portfolios every day, by ignoring the noise. Why? Why does intelligence not protect you from financial mistakes? That question haunted Housel for years. He spent over a decade writing, observing, and collecting stories about how humans actually behave with money, not how we're supposed to behave, but how we really behave. The result was 19 chapters, each one a different lens, each one revealing something true, something uncomfortable, and something deeply human about our relationship with money. No one is crazy. We all make decisions based on our own unique experience of the world. 7 ideas that will rewire how you think about money. Imagine two people sitting next to each other on a flight. Person A grew up during the Great Depression, watched their parents lose everything, saw neighbors go hungry. Money for them meant survival. Person B was born in the 1990s, grew up during a roaring bull market. They've never seen a true economic collapse. Money for them means opportunity, maybe even a game. Now they both open their brokerage apps. Person A sees a 20% market drop and immediately sells everything. Person B buys more. Who's right? Here's what Housel says. Neither is crazy. They're both making rational decisions based on the world they experienced. Your relationship with money is shaped by the generation you were born into, the economy you grew up in, the financial wins and traumas of your family. Someone who grew up poor and hoards cash isn't irrational. Someone who grew up rich and spends freely isn't stupid. They're just working from different data. The takeaway?
Before you judge someone's financial decisions or your own, ask what experiences shaped this thinking. Understanding where behavior comes from is the first step to changing it. In 1968, a 14-year-old boy in Seattle walked into his high school and discovered something almost no school in the world had at the time: a computer terminal. That boy was Bill Gates. Now here's a question. Was Bill Gates successful because he was brilliant? Yes, absolutely. But Housel asks a harder question. How many other equally brilliant 14-year-olds existed in 1968 who never had access to a computer? Thousands, maybe millions. Bill Gates got lucky. Not in a way that dismisses his genius, but in a way that acknowledges the role of circumstance. His own business partner in early life, Kent Evans, was equally gifted, but Evans died in a mountaineering accident before he could build anything. Same talent, opposite fate. Luck and risk are the same force working in opposite directions. When you see a successful person, you're often looking at skill plus luck, and it's almost impossible to separate the two. When you see someone who failed, you might be looking at a smart, hard-working person who just got hit by risk at the wrong moment. So what do we do with this? Housel says, be humble about your successes, be compassionate about others' failures, and always, always build a financial life that can survive bad luck, because bad luck is coming for everyone at some point. In 2008, Rajat Gupta was one of the most admired men in American business. He had run McKinsey, he sat on the board of Goldman Sachs, his net worth was in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and then he threw it all away for a few million more. He leaked insider trading information, got caught, lost his reputation, his freedom, and everything he'd built. Why would a man with hundreds of millions of dollars risk everything for a little more? Housel calls this the trap of enough. We live in a culture that glorifies more money, more status, more growth. There's no finish line. The goalpost keeps moving. And the terrifying thing is, this isn't just for billionaires. It happens at every income level. You get a raise. You get used to the raise. Now you need more. You buy the house. You love the house. Then you notice your neighbor's bigger house. The most dangerous financial disease isn't poverty, it's the inability to say, this is enough. Housel says the key to wealth isn't just making more, it's knowing, deeply knowing, how much is enough for you. And then protecting that line with everything you have. Because the people who lose it all, they usually don't lose it to a market crash. They lose it to the endless hunger for more. Here's a statistic that will rearrange your brain. Warren Buffett's net worth is approximately $115 billion. Now, here's the part people miss. 96% of that wealth was accumulated after his 65th birthday. He started investing at age 11, but the mountain of wealth, it came at the end, not from genius, not from a single great trade, from decades of compounding. Think of it this way. Imagine a snowball at the top of a long hill. At first, rolling it downhill barely does anything. It picks up a few flakes, moves slowly, looks unimpressive, but by the time it reaches the bottom, it's enormous. Not because it moved faster, because it had time. That's compound interest. The math of compounding is not intuitive to human brains. We think linearly. We don't naturally feel exponential growth in our gut. But here's the thing Housel emphasizes. Most people understand compounding. Almost nobody is patient enough to let it actually work. We interrupt it. We pull money out. We chase something shinier. We panic and sell. Good investing isn't about the highest returns. It's about getting decent returns for the longest possible time. The goal isn't to win. The goal is to not lose and to stay in the game long enough for time to do the work for you. There's a skill that gets you wealthy, and there's a completely different skill that keeps you wealthy. And almost nobody talks about the second one. Getting wealthy requires optimism, taking risks, being aggressive, putting yourself out there. Staying wealthy requires almost the opposite. It requires paranoia, humility, the constant awareness that what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Jesse Livermore was the greatest stock trader of the early 1900s. In 1929, the biggest market crash in history, he made a fortune by shorting the market. While everyone else was losing everything, he made $100 million in a single year. He was a legend, a genius. A few years later, he was bankrupt. He took the same aggressive risk-taking that made him rich and kept using it until it destroyed him. Housel's lesson is simple but profound. Survival is the highest form of financial